everyone. So Philippe Gaber speaking here. Welcome to the very high-level demonstration of ComputeDB, and formerly known as Snappy Data, as the picture here says. So this demonstration will be very high-level. That will be just how to access the data, how from Spotfire and from a SQL query-like engine, as well as a demonstration of the performances that we can reach with that highly distributed in-memory database. So Snappy Data, or ComputeDB with the new name, provides different capabilities for accessing the data and putting that in memory. The idea with huge volume of data is that usually those are stored into highly distributed file system like HDFS, or maybe stored into S3 buckets on Amazon or with some appliance. But it can also comes with SQL database or files like JSON, CSV, Parquet files, Avro file, etc. So here what we are going to go through is first the dataset that I've been using, which is this dataset that comes from the New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission. So basically, that's the list of all of the trips that happened during the year 2009 and 2018 for both the yellow cab and the green cabs in the city of New York. So the total number of rows for that is above 1,600,000,000. And we are going to load that into ComputeDB. So the first thing to do, obviously, is to download the data. I won't go through the steps because those are basically some CSV files that you can load and that I've been uploading to my AWS S3 Bucket. So I have an S3 bucket here with all of my CSV file. As you can see, they are pretty big, like 7 gigs each. But usually when you do that, when you play with this kind of volume of data for analytics, you rather store the data into a different format, which I've done here with a Parquet file, with Parquet files, which are much smaller and stored in a different manner, which is rather than storing the data into a row-based table, I'm here storing the data as a columnar table, which performance-wise for the analytics that we want to perform is much better. So in a nutshell here, I have a huge volume of data, which is stored onto an S3 bucket, which is pretty cheap, and that gives me pretty virtually unlimited disk space. And I will be loading that into my ComputeDB platform for further analytics. So now if I look at ComputeDB, this is the console I can access to, which gives me the list of servers, both technical servers and both workers and servers that share their memory. So a data server is the server which will actually both share the memory that it provides to the cluster and also do the actual workload of querying the engine, so querying the data. So the first thing you want to do is actually loading up the data into a table, which can be of two kinds. The first kind is an external table, which in that case, ComputeDB will rely on the underlying data source. That means if I have my files onto an S3 bucket, every time you will query ComputeDB for that particular table, it will actually get the data from the S3 bucket, which is pretty good when you've got huge amount of data that you don't want to move and which is correctly partitioned and distributed. Then in that case, the performances can be good, but that won't be as good as what we call an internal table, where actually the data is stored into the ComputeDB cluster memory, and that memory is shared across all of the data servers. For the dataset I was referring to, so the New York cab data, I have actually loaded 1,600,000,000 rows. That comes to a total of 167 gig. That size, that memory size, that data, that those 167 gigs are actually shared across my different data servers. So each of those servers have roughly 20 gig of memory allocated for that. It gives two advantages. The first one is you can be redundant, and the second one is when you query the ComputeDB engine, it will split it. It will share the workload across the different data servers, so you can have super fast performances. And that's what we are going to see now. So the first thing to do is, before going to Spotfire and see how you can query the data in ComputeDB, you can also run that kind of the same kind of queries that you would run through a SQL engine. So you could say, for example, I am querying my 1,600,000,000 rows with this kind of query. Here, in a matter of seconds, literally in a matter of seconds, you can query the whole data set, and ComputeDB will return the calculation. But again, remember that we are here querying 1,600,000,000 rows. Same thing, because you could say, oh, you could argue that this query has been cached. So let's select another one, like select count for the cap type, for example. Group by cap type. Here, again, in a couple of seconds, you got your results. And the good thing is, it's not only a query engine. You can also update the data from here. So should you have some update queries or insert queries or delete queries, like you would like to update some values or add new rows, that can be done in the same manner, just with a SQL query. And obviously the performances are pretty much as good as the query. Obviously, storing the data, writing the data will be a little bit slower than querying the data, but you can expect such performances, this level of performances with ComputeDB. Now, as ComputeDB is a TIBCO product, it is very well integrated with other TIBCO products, which is, for example, TIBCO Spotfire for the visual analytics and data exploration. So, for example, here I'm in my Spotfire studio, and I can connect to a new data source. Here, that will be my ComputeDB data store. Create a new connection, give the server details, login, select the database I want to use, and select the table I want to use. So here I want to use my internal table for all of my trips. Select them, and I can already start to play with my data. I could use that to visualize the actual values. So we see that we have some vendor IDs, we've got some flags, we've got some GPS coordinate, we've got some payment type, cap type, etc., etc. So maybe what we want to start with is simply create a bar chart that would display the number of trips per vendor ID, for example. So let me search vendor, drag and drop it here, and maybe also per cap type. So cap type here. Okay, and I want to color per cap type, so I want the yellow cap being yellow and the green cap to be green. All right. Here, just to give you an idea of the number of rows that we are actually querying, I'm going to display the label. That means the number of rows that for all of the values. So here, no decimal. As you can see here, we are querying 782 million rows. Here, 730 million rows. If we drill down, if we keep drilling down, so let's say I'm going to analyze the yellow cap for the very fun ink. Can just right click here, create a detailed visualization, and let's say that now I'd like to see the per payment type. I'm going to remove the vendor ID. Per payment type, how much money did I make? So the total amount. Here, we are again querying that huge amount of rows, and for the to make it easier to read, I'm going to change the label, the formatting, sorry, to say that it's a currency, and I want to make it easier to read. So here it's $6 billion, $6,845,000,000 dollars for the credit payment. As you can see, that was doing that is pretty snappy. Again, if I want to drill down and create a detailed visualization, let's say, I don't know, for the number of passenger, so I can do that. Select the passenger count, and the platform will give me the number of rows. If I select the credit here, how many passenger they were for those trips. Now, with the platform, with Spotfire, you can do other things, like you can still leverage the data transformation. So for example, I'm going to create a hierarchy that says I would like to display the pickup date time per year, month, and day of month. So pickup date. I could say now, let's give a couple of seconds for Spotfire to calculate the new column. That's all good. I could say now that I would like, for example, to display on the line chart the number of trips over the time. So for example, here, I'd like to display the pickup date, and here I'm going to display the row count. When it's running, I can show you what, oh, it's already done, it's too fast, but I can also show you what is the jobs that run in the backend. So we can have a look at all of the queries that are currently executing. So you can see what are the queries that takes time to run, how the ComputeDB share the workload on the different servers. So I can drill down into those different jobs and see what server did what action. Now, obviously, you can then go back to your chart and change the hierarchy level. Like say, I don't want to see the data year by year, but month after month. And here, Spotfire will push the query to ComputeDB for that matter. Now, let's say I want again to change that and say, I would like to create one line per payment type. Again, querying the 1,600,000,000 rows. Here, it's going to display the data. Now, while it's loading, what I can do is displaying the rows that I'm querying. So, for example, create a cross table that will give me the actual numbers. So I don't want that. I would like both the row count and the total amount. I'm going to put some total calculation. Up. So here I am actually playing with 1,600,000,000 rows, and I'm displaying the total amount of money that was spent over the years. Going back to our charts here, I can see year over year and month over month that the cash payment is decreasing, whereas the credit was increasing and then slowing, going back down. That's pretty much it for that very high level demonstration. I hope that you liked it. If you have any questions, just feel free to contact us. Thank you. Bye-bye.